All right, what up, world? My name is Coach Paige from Premier Fitness Systems. This is my client, Dallas. Thank you again for joining. This is part 3 in a 3-part series of bridging the gap between a bilateral hip hinge, aka a deadlift, into a unilateral hip hinge, aka a single leg hip hinge. So in the previous post, we've talked about common faults. Like again, oftentimes what I see is, first of all, people have trouble balancing on one leg. Secondly, as they start to go into that hinge, this hip starts to open up. We see some disconnect with the core. We just see a lot of things not really working well. So last week, a couple weeks ago, we talked about getting into the staggered stance. So Dallas is just going to quickly show us the staggered stance is one foot exactly behind the other, toe kind of in line with this heel. He's still about hip distance apart. In fact, he could probably make a little bit of space. Yep. And then the heel stays back up. You're pressing through the ball of the foot. 80% of the weight is on his left leg. And then he's going to make his hands into a fist, get the elbows nice and tight. And then from here, he can hip hinge. So he's focusing predominantly on his left side. Okay? That's your staggered stance. There you go. Go ahead and come all out. That's pretty easy to progress from a bilateral into that. And then after that, we talked about a rear step. Okay? This time, Dallas is going to increase the distance between his 2 feet. Again, he still had 2 points of contact, so it's still technically somewhat like a bilateral. But now he's starting to, again, put more emphasis on the front leg, less emphasis on the back leg, and it's just serving as almost a kickstand or a little bit so you can still balance and practice his hinge position. Okay? So today, let's talk about how to get your client or get you actually doing a full-on single leg hip hinge. So the first thing we're going to try is we're going to use a super band. In this case, I have a thin red super band. Okay? Dallas has got it wrapped around his right foot, and then it's all the way up here across the left shoulder. So this kind of creates that serape effect, kind of help connecting the sling systems of the body. What he's going to do is, first and foremost, we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up in terms of how to cue and connect with this. So the first thing is with the foot, if you imagine a triangle, one point is under that first metatarsal in the ball of the foot, the other one is under the pinky toe or the lateral portion, and then the last point of that triangle is at the heel. So he's going to shift his weight onto the left side, make sure he's got full connection. He's going to keep this knee straight, okay? And then again, we're going to tighten up the fists. We're going to make sure the upper back is steady. He's going to draw his navel point in. In other words, he's going to brace for impact as if I'm going to punch him in the stomach, okay? Go ahead and start to hinge. So if Dallas was wearing a pair of jeans or pants that had a pocket, I would tell him to make sure he shifts all of his weight into his left back pocket. Very good. You go ahead and do a couple more. He's also making sure that he's keeping his chin nice and tucked. So his eyes come to the floor or about 2 feet out in front of his foot, and then he can take his gaze or his eyes to the horizon as he comes up, as long as the nape of the neck remains nice and long. So this is one way to try to get your client to understand that you should kind of work your body like a pendulum so that the torso and the leg itself are working together as one unit. Okay, so maybe that doesn't go quite as well. What's another option? Well, if you happen to have a bigger foam roller, one of the longer foam rollers, you can use this. So I believe I first saw this via Franz Niedemann. So what he's going to do is, again, on the non-working leg, it's on the top of his foot, and then he's got his hand here. So now we've kind of created a little bit of a feedback loop. So it's going to, again, allow him to stay like a pendulum. So if I looked at Dallas, if you could pause right here for me, Dallas, he's got a pretty straight line between his ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and all the way down through that ankle. So that's that nice line of stability coming through. So this could also potentially help your client stay nice and strong in that right anterior core area as well too. Same rules still apply in terms of getting stability through the foot, up the kinetic chain, sending a lot of weight shifting over into that left outer hip, and then again keeping the back nice and neutral. Okay? Very good. How'd that feel?
It's good.
Good. All right, so now let's go ahead and incorporate a tool. So let's load this because this movement pattern is pretty decent. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is use the ultimate sandbag. Again, we're going to grab it by the, in this case, we're going to put it into the suitcase style handle. So you can use a kettlebell as well, but I like the sandbag in this case. And so he's got a good firm grip on the ultimate sandbag. Shift the weight to that left side. Again, 3 points of contact through the foot. Okay, draw the navel point in, squeeze the sphincter or lift your pelvic floor is another way to think about it. Keep your chest lifted, shoulder blades back, chin tucked. And then again, go ahead and hinge. Woo. No worries, take your time. Okay? And we go ahead and push through the floor, standing up nice and tall. So again, you want to make sure, go ahead and do it again. You've got a full contraction all the way at the top, full extension. So he's going to come up nice and long and pushing through the heel of his foot. So the nice thing about the ultimate sandbag in that suitcase, we've got it in the contralateral load. What this does is it helps him still kind of make sure he stays nice and strong through that anterior core, especially on that right side. So it's actually a good anti-rotational drill, requires a lot of core stability as well. Now the other thing he can do is he can put it, go ahead and grab by the parallel handles in the front. So we can grab it like we did in our very first video. So he's going to think about rotating the eyes of the elbows as best as he can. That's going to get good shoulder extension through here. And then he's got a nice firm grip on the bag too, almost ripping it apart, which again in turn helps him create stability in the upper back. So not like a barbell where we've got a nice neutral position. So again, Dallas, go ahead and do 1 or 2 more. Of course, at this point, his glutes and hamstrings are probably a little tore up, right, from all the work we've done today. But again, this is a little bit more even, not exactly that contralateral load, a little bit easier than the other variation that we showed you. Now the last thing is, let's say the client is performing very well at these, we would put it into the front loaded position. So go ahead and get it into, now we're going to take this and make this a little bit more challenging. What's happening right now is already the bag is trying to pull Dallas forward into flexion. So his core, more importantly, has to really fire up to keep an extension. Go ahead and perform a rep. So he can do this from a bilateral stance, okay? Earn that, he's pretty good at that. We're just gonna make sure that he has a little soft knee as you start to hinge down, soften those knees. Yep, make sure this bone, shin bone stays vertical and come up. Now try this from a single leg position. So shift your weight to the left, yep. Good. And then push all the way up. See, again, like this is a very challenging exercise. The bag that he's using is one of our force bags. It's only about 35 pounds, but are you getting that in like a lot through the core?
Yeah.
Or maybe even in his upper back. So now he's having to kind of squeeze or pull the bag to himself, or maybe even a slight pulling of the elbows in just to make sure that the lats stay fired up. And as a coach, what I can also do is I can come back here, create a little feedback, and push into his hand or into his foot with my hand. And that'll act kind of very similar to how we had that resistance band or kind of how we had that foam roller. So hopefully those are some really good things that you can try at home or with your clients. Again, single leg hip hinging is a wonderful exercise to include in your repertoire, especially if you play sports. It's really important that we learn how to create stability asymmetrically or on one side of the body, whether we load that into a shoulder position or a one-arm rack carry or suitcase or however. Again, this is going to be really good feedback so that the spine can stabilize while the limbs move about. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, be sure to put the comments in below, and you can always find me at www.premierfitnesssystems.com.